It's easy to see that Jesus is not done with Hollywood. With projects like The Chosen, The Shift, Sound of Freedom, and the new movie coming out, The Sound of Hope. Sit with me today with the director, Joshua Weigel, and one of the founders from Angel Studio, Jeffrey Harmon. These two gentlemen are making a crazy dent in this industry, and I'm excited that they're on this show and they get to discuss their ideas on where they think God wants to take this industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode, and make sure you guys tune in to The Sound of Hope, July 3rd and 4th.
I'm just playing, I don't fight, I do pray. I only go the way of Mr. Yahweh.
It's not often I sit down with somebody and they say something that makes me think.
Oh,
this was great.
I love you guys.
Will you give me something to think about?
My own damn way.
I had a lot of fun on this interview.
All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the George Janko Show. It is an honor and a privilege. Today we have two incredible guests, an amazing director, and a brain that's so calculated. By the end of the show, you're going to be like, I want to see through his lens. Thank you, gentlemen. We have Josh and Jeff Ree on today's show. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for coming.
So good to be here, man. It's awesome.
We actually just hung out before we started shooting, and it was the first time we ever, as a group, we prayed together before. So I don't know. I just feel like this episode was just a little certainly special to my heart.
I feel some extra power already.
Yeah, right? Mm-hmm. So let's just jump into this. We have an exciting movie coming out July 4th. Fireworks are going off and tears are going to be coming out. Because you guys sent us this movie called Sound of Hope. And this is majority of what we're going to be discussing today. But there's so many things that came out of Angel Studio, and I want to just tap into that. We got the cartoon David. We have The Chosen came out from you guys. We have The Shift and Sound of Freedom. Mm-hmm. That one, I want to get into that one alone because I'm just going to be honest with you guys.
Yeah, we need to.
I could not watch that movie. I could.
Oh, you couldn't?
I can't. My heart won't take it. Just the Sound of Hope. It's just you guys are so good at your jobs, man. You guys really make the audience feel what's going on. That Sound of Hope that's coming out July 4th is a wonderful story. I don't want to jump too much into this because I don't want to get people to be like, oh, I already watched it on the podcast. But Sound of Hope is about a Christian family that hears from the Lord that they should adopt, and the journey that this family brings. I'm getting goosebumps right now, and this is the best way that I could put it. It's the first time where I was excited to call my mom and dad and be like, I found the family movie we're going to watch. Because nowadays when you watch a movie, it's just full of things that I don't want to even watch, let alone watch with my mom and dad. And then two, it's been a very long time, man, when I watched a movie and it made me want to change my actions. Feel like I'm not doing enough. It made me realize that I'm not as good as I claim I am. And there's people out there that have so much less than me that are doing so much more than me. And so just before we even get into this episode, I want to say thank both of you guys for creating a project like this that I'm so excited to see what happens with the world.
And you're not the only one. This is the highest rated critical review movie so far. The Angel Studios has helped put out. Thanks to
just
Josh
learned
and
that today.
Peachtree. So it's 100% with critics on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
There's 14 critics in so far. We're 2 days before launch. But 14 critics have come in, and every single critic says, I cried.
No,
I cried
sobbed.
Tears of joy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good tears.
Yes.
It felt good crying, dude.
I mean, it's
Like
I think
healing crying.
Yes.
You want to recoil, and I mean, I think if anybody watches this movie and doesn't see the beautifulness of this movie, it's raw, it's heartbreaking, but it's so beautiful because at the end of the day, you're showing that Jesus saves, and you guys are telling such an important story, and you're painting it out in the most incredible way. I mean, the way that it's shot was beautiful. The coloring is transportive. I feel like I'm there. I'm the acting. I'm inside of their shoes.
So good.
You guys really blew out of the park.
Let's tap about the storytelling aspect. Josh, you are not only an unbelievable director, but you've won an award. You won the first Clint Eastwood Directors Award.
Yeah, first Clint Eastwood Filmmaker Award for a short film we did years ago. My wife and I work together. So Rebecca produces with me and we write. And then I directed. So this short film, I got into his lap, and I got an email from he and his wife, and we made him cry. We made Clint Eastwood cry.
How does that feel? How does it?
It was.
It's so funny because me and her work together. We're getting married, and we're like, so how does that feel?
Yeah.
That happened, and it's possible.
You order
right?
the same thing in restaurants too. I bet. I know. I mean, you can't even believe it. It's It's unbelievable. He's one of the last legends around, So that was a short film that, we hope to one day turn into the feature film version of it. But that was the film award you're talking about. And then there was a bunch of film festival awards for that as well. And that's what we were working on before we did this one. We were making really amazing headway with Butterfly Circus as a feature. And then this story just took over,
How did this come about? How did it fall in your lap? And when did you start working on it?
So my wife and I, we adopted 2 of our kids. And during that process, my wife was working in Los Angeles, trying to work with churches to get them to adopt and foster more and everything related to that. And she came across his story and ended up, she was trying to find a speaker for a conference she was doing, and turned out to be Reverend Martin. So Bishop Martin now, is Reverend Martin back then,
right,
in the movie, and connected, got talking, and she was immediately hooked by this story. She just felt like this has to be made. And I'll just say quickly that it was the story that kind of floated around the foster and adopt space. We all kind of knew of this community somewhere.
Yeah, been on Oprah. Oprah had brought them on. Right?
The fact that this movie is based on a true story, and you could actually, in the movie, in large detail, it explains everything. But the fact that it's kind of overwhelmingly how could this even be real? And if it is, how did we not do something like this before?
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so did you have part in writing?
Yeah, we both wrote it. Rebecca and I wrote together. We always write together.
Yeah.
And that took a while. I mean, so when this thing came to us, I looked at it and thought, 77 kids were adopted by 22 families. It's incredible. It's a lot of people.
These aren't families of great means.
No, these aren't child welfare workers. These are average people like us, and they saw this need, heard about this need. I mean, real quickly, I can say Donna Martin broke ground. She felt called by God to go help kids who didn't have parents. And
You could see God,
catalyzed it.
and just to even back that, a true Christian, a true man and a woman who fears the Lord. This is how I say, you might not be able to see God, but you could see God working.
Yeah.
You can't see wind, but you could see what the wind does to my hair, to the trees, to the atmosphere around me. You can't see the wind, but you could see the wind moving and what it does.
Yeah.
And when you see a man or a woman who fears God and they're moving, you see Christ through them. And the acting and the directing, it made me feel like I was there. So I want to take a page back. How did you find these actors? How long did it take you to get? Because, bro, even the children in this movie, bro.
Yeah, incredible.
I can't stop getting goosebumps. I hope you guys zoom in. Just the children is insane, bro.
Yeah, this goes way back to, I have to say this right now because I want everyone to know what you're experiencing. When I'm seeing you guys affected and others, I'm looking back going, this is all God.
Amen.
The story is him. He started it, catalyzed this in this woman's heart. And it grew into this thing. And what's amazing is to come alongside it as a creator and be given this honor to tell it. But everything about my wife and I is we want people to experience God. And we want them to experience God's heart. What we do has to transcend just the normal stories. That's our hope and goal and prayer. So we're seeing that right now. It's moving people. And when you hear crying, you think sad. And no, it's
beautiful.
You're so I feel those things, and we're part of making this. I feel stuff that you're feeling. It's crazy.
This is the best way for the people that are at home are watching. This is the best way, and this is the whole movie for 2 hours. This is how you're feeling. Those compilation videos of army men coming home and holding their children, or the dad showing up and the child didn't know, and all you hear is that one line of Dad, I can't believe you're here, and you're just sitting there and you're melting. The whole movie made me feel like that, and you guys did an incredible job making 2 Christian individuals demand more from each other.
See, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I'll just say I don't love Christian media. It's not my thing. I respect it. It's people love it or moved by it. But when I got a hold of this, I felt when I started hearing the stories of these kids, that shook me. And I said, if we can get that on film, and if we can get that story authentically told, and not mess people up in the wrong way. You can go too far. But if we can be honest about this, then this is a powerhouse story. And that's through that wrestling with the story and figuring out how we could get it to work in a couple hours. That was the core of it. We got to get these kids' lives out there We want people to understand what they go through so that we can respond to it, and the people who care for these kids. So we just work from that place of, this has got to be real. We can't tell this story. If you don't want to be real, then don't tell this story.
Do you have tired joints and muscles? It's a good thing that this video is sponsored by Blue Emu. This cream works really fast and you won't stink. Blue Emu is an odor-free cream for your muscles and joints that are sold nationwide in Walmart. What I love about this company, guys, is a small business that's ran in Tennessee that competes with the big guys. There's many reasons why I wanted this product to sponsor my show, and the two main ones is the product works, and people that review it, you should go check out for yourself. Their reviews on this product is incredible. And the second reason why is they're super outspoken for the Lord like me, and I love that. Their new jar is actually gonna have Matthew's 10:32, and it says, anyone who acknowledges me publicly on earth, I will also acknowledge before my Father in heaven. I don't know, I might be crazy, but if somebody could stand up for the Lord in front of the whole world, then I think that they're on to good things. And if you have some joints and muscles that are tired and you need some odorless free cream, go to Amazon, and to get 20% off, all you gotta use my code 20Janko Show at checkout. I'll have the link in the description. Support healthy muscle and joints. Blue Emu. Get it today. Link in my description. 20% off.
If you don't want to be real, then don't tell this story.
100%. And it's the fact too that you're able, because at the end of the day, a lot of people don't realize this truth. They're not aware of it, or they're aware of it, but you don't really know how bad it is until you can really see it on paper.
Yeah, you're like the foster system. We all know, oh, it's out there somewhere. Someone else is handling it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, this community said, there's kids in need. We're gonna just get our arms around them. That's the way the community is. Anytime anything happens in that community, it's like we band together around. I was there one time, and we're just having a meal, hanging out like we do. I'll get it. We moved near there, and they get a call, and one of the lady's nephews was killed in a drive-by shooting or something in Houston. Instantly, the whole place just erupts into prayer and weeping and support. Yeah, I mean, I just saw this moment of, this is how it works. This is why they can do this, because they just are linked together deeply as friends and family.
There's aspects that Belle and I, we would just pause and look at each other and be like, we're just so proud of you guys for this aspect. God speak. There's no atheist in a foxhole. When somebody's in deep pressure, they have to look up to God. And there's this movement that you guys have in the movie. There's scenes where Martin is struggling with his wife, struggling with his adoptions, struggling with his children, and he sits there and he be still and he hears from the Lord, and he takes that to the congregation. And he's standing there, not as a man who's like, I think this is how it is.
Right.
You see a man who keeps getting broken and rebuilt by God. And that aspect is what a real priest or a real pastor or a real man of God who's emulating who Christ is. It's not a man who doesn't suffer. It's a man who knows how to suffer. And this movie just spreads that beautifully. So I want to take another step back. Do you still have a relationship with this beautiful couple that started this movement?
Yeah. So when we started writing, we developed it for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
How did you get the story from them? He wrote it to you?
When Rebecca met them, it was an immediate, like, we should do,
Yeah.
We'd love to get this movie made. And
Yeah.
we said, well, I think we're the ones to do it. So, but we got to a point where we felt like, so we were living in LA at the time, there in East Texas. And, it just didn't feel like we'd hit the body, like in a good sense, we didn't hit the deep things. Like we really needed to get more. So we just felt like this is such a calling. We got to stay all in, like really, really mean this. And so we ended up moving to East Texas near this community, hoping that we could get closer to them and just get a better vantage point. And we got to meet a bunch of the kids and really have real conversations, not just like research meeting, kind of things. And I think that really brought what we were missing from this. And it's just a necessary part of this particular story because it's true. There's a lot of people, a lot of perspectives, a lot of experiences. And so that was our heart. We just want to get beside what God's doing.
And you did, man. You really did. And this might be a spoiler, so we'll cut it out if you guys don't feel comfortable, but we probably will cut it out. I'll beep it out. But at the end when I'm trying not to choke.
I know, don't say it. Don't say it.
Where she goes that was shot so perfectly for me to see his overwhelmingness of like God showed up. And I think that's what a lot of people right now in America are kind of dealing with. Like, God, where are you? Like, I need you to show up. And when he shows up, he shows out. And I think God spoke to them. And that scene, well, let's just put it this way. The movie's about God calling to this woman after she suffers. And he says, go find more life. And that calling was for that family. And your guys' calling was get up, go meet them. And so, like, just as much as they did their job, you guys did your job. And so, like, I have to give your guys' flowers. And you guys, and I could tell there's no pride. You guys are just giving it to the Lord. And that's how you know things are actually working. When you see somebody boast and be like, oh, I did this and I did this. But when you see somebody say, no, God it just did this. It just did this. You should know them by their fruits. And just spending 20 minutes before we even shot, your guys' fruits are so good, man. So good. And I'm excited about this movie. But I'm also excited about other projects that you guys are going to be doing, because let's put it this way, man. I'll spend $20 for a movie ticket and I'll walk out of the movie after spending $100 after like candy and popcorn and stuff. Because I'm like, bro, it's just rinse and repeat with this crap, dude. Like I'm bored and I'm tired of the agenda that they're putting in these movies.
Entertainment junk food.
Yeah, and it's just like
there's not a single project without, I was telling you guys
no
earlier,
substance.
Everything is just wrapped and drowned in just like sexuality or just everything is so crude. You know what I mean? Just like that shock factor.
And you'll think a movie's going well, and then at the end it suddenly just goes fully nihilistic.
That's when we leave.
Yeah.
That's when we leave. No, every time. And so when we all had this meeting and they're like, hey, check out this movie, Sound of Hope. To be honest, I was very nervous because one, it's for my Lord. And I'm like, man, if I hate this thing, dude, like I'm going to feel so uncomfortable, bro. Like, I don't even know how to go about this. And it's also, is that blasphemy? Is like, am I going to get like, but I watched this and I'm like.
It's okay to dislike non-excellent content.
Bro, but it is phenomenal. And
you just say it's for someone else.
I want to talk about this because I find it fascinating. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I love it yet, and I don't know if I hate it. But I from the content you guys are producing, I got to say it's working, and the system is so far so good. I want to talk about this Angel Guild. And could you give me some... for the audience that don't know what this is.
So the idea, I grew up potato farms in Idaho, farmer. My brothers and I are farmers. So we're the least likely, we had 3 TV channels. We are the least likely candidates to be Hollywood executives running a studio that's, doing big stuff. And one of the things as we were studying it, because we just have a lot of kids and we want our kids to have good content. Culture is upstream from everything else, and media influences culture. And so we were just like, we just got to build something that doesn't exist because nobody has figured this out yet. And so we started digging in, similar to what Josh and Rebecca are building the future they want in content. And as we did it, we realized that there's this problem in Hollywood where you have gatekeepers that live in these boardrooms in LA. Oh, no, they don't live in the boardroom, but that's where they work.
Practically.
Yeah, they practically live in the boardrooms. Everybody in their entire sphere is in a bubble, an LA bubble that's different than the rest of the world. And they're out of touch, and they're making all of the decisions about content. And that's where all this nihilistic content is coming from. It's coming from the gatekeepers. It's not coming from the filmmakers.
Right.
It's coming from the gatekeepers who are pushing it.
Good for you for noticing that, because the industry is sick and tired of an agenda that they're trying to do, and the people that get in trouble for it are the actors, the directors.
It's not them.
The writer. Like, it's
That's
like, bro,
right.
like they don't see the writers writing up a great movie, putting it on somebody's desk, and they're like, great, let's put this in it. Let's take this out. Let's do
Exactly.
this. And you guys are like, yo, like that's not what the audience wants.
Yes.
But you guys decided to take it.
Yeah, our solution is called the Angel Guild. And the Angel Guild is a group of everyday people that is 350,000 strong. 350,000 people around the world have joined this guild in 155 countries. And what we do is every piece of content that comes into Angel Studios has to go through the guild. They get to review it, and they get to vote on it. And I'm the chief content officer of the company. I can't take on a project without the Angel Guild first voting it in.
Wow.
Gotcha.
And so they're voting, and we've built really good statistical systems to make sure that we don't have weird outcomes. But they're voting on 1,000+ films a year, trying to figure out which ones come in. So in the from April to April, it was 717 filmmakers had submitted to Angel Studios over 900 films, and the Angel Guild, only 13 made it through. One of them is Sound of Hope, and Sound of Hope, the story of Possum, Trot.
Come on.
But it didn't just make it through. This
made it
film
through.
I bet.
is the highest rated feature-length film we've ever had go through the Guild. It is the highest rated right now.
Thank you, God.
Amen.
And what happens when stuff goes through the Guild is we're allowed to predict now what our audience score on Rotten Tomatoes is going to be.
Right.
So
this
you
must
found
be
an algorithm. Look at the
Yeah.
potato guy, bro. Not too bad, potato guy.
Yeah, we can tell. And so not a single film that we've released in theaters has poor ratings from audiences.
Right,
Not-
because you're already getting their aspect before,
Yeah.
so you know what's going to work. It's great for your company.
Which I
Yes.
love this because in Hollywood, when I do movies or TV shows, they'll shoot it and then they'll have a screening, but it's already done. And they'll be like, so what do you think? What do you don't like? They're like, the concept. It's kind of crap. And they're like, well, we can't do anything about that right now.
Who invited you in here?
Get him out of here. But this is great because there's so many times where you're like, we'll watch something and be like, why is this, like, we don't like this. Like, this is annoying. We should like have, like, cause you know what I'm tired? I'm a movie fanatic. I used to go to the movies every week with my dad. Every week. My dad would work very hard.
Yep.
But we would get together really late at night because you'd come home late.
Yep.
Even on a school day, it would be like a Thursday when new movies come out. And me and him would go at 12 o'clock at night.
Oh,
and
I
we would
love your
watch.
dad.
You know what I'm saying? And he would turn to me and he'd just like promise me you won't sleep in class tomorrow. I'm like, no, I won't. I did. But I won't. And that feeling of going in with my dad to a movie, or let's say Blockbuster on the Tuesday movie releases, and like those moments where I used to be so excited to watch something somebody created and experience that with my family, it's gone. It's not there
Yeah.
no more.
It's true.
And you
Yeah.
guys are bringing it back. And
thank
to be
you.
honest, that scared me for a bit. This is this is what I love. Obviously, Jesus is number one. That's my life. But like, I felt like I was called to entertain and tell a story. We're all storytellers, and I'd love to tell a good story. And now, because of the boardroom or their agenda, the stories got tainted. And they're not real. In fact, there's some movies that I don't agree with, but I could respect their opinion and understand their positioning. But I could tell when they're just trying to get you to think of something
Yep.
versus trying to show you something. And this movie, you guys are not demanding people look this way. You're just saying, hey, take a gander on what this is really like out here.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
It's like this is a huge movement right now of hundreds of thousands of people, eventually be millions, that anybody, like, if you want to influence the future of filmmaking, just join the Angel Guild. It's angel.com/guild. I'm going to just let people know where they
Please.
can join.
Yep.
And when you join it, you get a vote on the movies that get made or get distributed by Angel Studios. Both of those happen. And then you get two movie tickets to every single movie. So you get 2 movie tickets to Sound of Hope. But don't wait to join the Angel Guild. Just show up to Sound of Hope. That's the most important thing. And then you get to give feedback. Like you don't just get early access for a live stream. You get rough cut access. Josh submitted Sound of Hope in rough cut form.
How does that, I'm not a question for you. Does that not scare you?
I don't know if it scares me. I think it would scare me if, so they were really respectful of the artistic voice. So it was really more like, hey, we invite you to do this. Like, first it has to pass.
Yep.
Once you
I'm
pass-
just talking about somebody ripping
Yeah.
your work.
No, I know. And then once it gets to that point, okay, just in the fact that they may not like it. Yeah, I mean,
But Josh
that's
also has an
uncomfortable.
absurd amount of confidence in his work.
Well, bro, if I had that piece of content too,
What
I would.
I meant was like if the future of it depended on their opinion, or we had to change things because of their opinion, that would deeply.
Yeah.
frighten
I'm not
me.
even talking
But
about
if you're
that.
not talking about
I'm
that,
talking about like,
just
oh, this is
exposing
good.
it.
Yeah,
let
someone
me
to take
let
it.
me go and record this for YouTube
okay.
right now.
All right, so let me address that real quick.
Yeah.
Every single guild member that wants to watch feature-length films, we do what's called KYC, Know Your Customer, which means we have their, because these are tens of millions of dollar films. These are very expensive projects.
Yeah.
And so we do KYC where we have their social security number, their card, because they're participating in something that's very valuable, and then it's watermarked. Every single one's watermarked to them. So if they share it, it's tied right back to their
Got
ID.
you.
So filmmakers can trust that it's not going to go spread all over the internet.
Yeah.
And if it does, we know who did it.
And
And-
that will have a consequence.
Yeah, it has a major
A
consequence.
couple of people went missing. But,
Yeah, and so
We're all good.
But with what Josh, when Josh submits, there's noise and then there's signal. So the guild gives a whole bunch of different. They give a whole bunch of feedback to Josh, and lots of it's noise, whole bunches of noise. We can trust good filmmakers like Josh and Rebecca, and the whole Peachtree team. They are incredible at just like looking through these hundreds of comments and then seeing patterns and recognizing signal. They do it intuitively. It's not even like, I don't even know how to explain it, but they just go and they just read it over, and then they intuitively know how to turn the art to fix the data problems that they're seeing.
Yeah, and I think it's an amazing opportunity, especially for this kind of film, because we intended it to reach as many as possible, and we can talk about why, but it wasn't just my little artistic endeavor, and I didn't want to hear anything. Like I took that in probably in a unique way. Like, hey,
Yeah,
you know, maybe
they
there's
have a
something here.
gift.
Maybe there's something here, and if it helps, it helps. So it was nice to have that, and then you can resubmit it, and it's just really interesting to see how it sort of progresses too. Because it was early, but I think it was like temp music and all kinds of things, and we were just so glad to be approved, and then to get to go back and resubmit it and see how people feel about the finished product is
And when
really fun.
when
So I just want to take like just a step back. So we got the script, right? How does it go first? Do you get the actors first and then show the audience, or do you show them the script? Like, how do they even like?
the guild.
Yeah.
So in this case, Josh submitted a rough cut, right?
So this was not quite a rough cut, but it was an early cut of the film. So
With the
it was
real actors?
basically, yeah. This
Oh,
was
really?
a finished, essentially a close to finished movie.
Wow.
So-
Now, two different things happen. You can submit ideas and you can speak to this, but there's
Yep.
there's the torch idea, which he will explain really well, and then there's at times there are actual finished products that will come through and be voted on. And I think it's a bit of an evolution that's happening right now. So
Yep.
you probably heard of the torch, which is an unfinished early example prototype kind of idea, and then you make the real thing off of that, which we didn't have to do.
Got it. Because
But
you already
that
had
is
the
that is
project.
something that the guild is.
So how
doing
did you
for.
guys like come together? Like, were you like, I had this project and I think Angel would be.
Yeah, we knew about Angel for sure, and we're watching and Sound of Freedom, like,
Crushed.
man. And so we were always planning to go there. Now we have that independent film, and it's a huge battle anytime you do that. And we knew it needed the right home. We knew it needed somebody who understood what this could be and needed to be and how it needed to be treated. And so that's the fit. And so we went to them with this, and had, like everyone else, we had to submit to the guild and go through the process. But we brought that film to them for basically an opportunity to
But
distribute
you had already
it.
been working on it for 10 years, right?
We were 8 years of mostly development and about 3 solid years of
They
creating and
moved to
pre-production.
Possum Trot.
Close
They-
to Possum
or
Trot,
right
too.
down in that area, and
Yeah.
lived with the community, went to church with them. So they had been doing this for a long time before they came.
Yeah.
Simultaneously, because we're a 10-year-old company, so almost the whole time that we've even
crazy.
existed, they've been working on this film.
That just shows, I'm sorry, but that just shows like how much faith you have, because you're like, I know that this is right. I know this project is meant to be. I'm going to put my everything. I'm going to move there. I'm going to learn their essence. And then you just trusted that it would end up in the right hands.
Yeah, because if you go to a normal big studio or something, typically, if they're interested, they'll absorb that and then ruin it.
Right.
Most likely, if it's something like this, let's wreck your movie now. Thanks. So these guys didn't do that, and that's what's really important and special. Another thing about what they do. So
Although I've made a few marketing assets that Josh doesn't like.
we do butt heads on some of that.
Just
But
promotion
the thing
The way you're
itself is working. So no, I love that, and I like that there's flexibility to it too. That it can be that in that little nugget of an idea that maybe you don't have all the money for, but you have enough to kind of show what it could be, and then the guild says that's great, do that, and then you can go raise money off of that, hopefully, or maybe even Angel will produce that. I mean, they do produce sometimes when it comes to those kinds of
There's
things.
a fund that helps fund projects as well. But you can submit a concept or a prototype, like a 5-minute video, and down to 5 minutes. It can be down to like a 5-minute scene of your movie that you're thinking about, and then let the guild vote on that. And we call those torches because it's based on this, the torch of the Statue of Liberty. The creator of the Statue of Liberty, Frederick Bartholdi, couldn't raise enough money in order to build the Statue of Liberty. And so he just got enough money to build the hand and a torch, and he set it up, and he crowdfunded off of that torch the equivalent of $15 million today in today's money, and he built the Statue of
Crazy.
Liberty. It wasn't built by governments. People don't realize the Statue of Liberty wasn't built by governments. He couldn't get it. So he built this torch, and then he created a vision. That's the idea. So we call them torches. And so when you go to the guild, you can watch these little short torches, and you can vote on them, and then those start coming into existence if they get voted well. Or you can submit feature-length films, or some people make a little torch, and then they'll take their entire script and do a table reading, and then do an audio script and submit an audio script to the guild, and then they'll put like wireframes and storyboards, animatics, and they submit throughout the process. So when you're a guild member, you're not just getting early access like, oh, I got to see it early while it was still in theaters. You know, it's been out in theaters for 3 weeks and I got to see it early. No, you're getting to see stuff like year in advance, 2 years in advance. You get to watch through the process. You get to get on live streams with directors and actually give them feedback and influence the future of all these films as a filmmaker. So at my house, I have 6 kids. My oldest is 12 and my youngest is 1. And when they're getting too much screen time, we say, Harmons live on the other side of the screen. My wife and I say, we live on the other side of the screen. We don't live on the consumption side. We live on the creation side of the screen.
I love that.
And so go make the stuff that everybody else is watching and reduce your screen time and make things. And
Just throw a potato at them. Be like,
yeah,
this is where I started. This is where you're going to start.
yeah, throw a potato. But we live on the creation side. And the idea of the Angel Guild is that everybody who has a desire can now go live on the other side of the screen with the Angel Guild and work with top of the world filmmakers like Josh and Rebecca, and they're proving it out. Like the critics' reviews coming in are proving out that this is a top film. Like
It's incredible.
yeah.
And the reason why
my
I'm excited
10-year-old
about
daughter, I took her to the film early screening. My 10-year-old daughter walked out and said, my new favorite movie,
No way.
which shocked
Whoa.
me.
it really, it's up there for me now. I'm not even just saying that. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that
She
because
said
you're on the
favorite
show.
movie of all time for
It's-
her.
What is doing that to you think? What's
You know what it is?
I'm sure it's a lot of things.
Okay, so take God out of it, right? Because that's
Yeah.
cheesy. A lot of people be like, oh, he just loves God,
Yeah,
so he's
yeah.
going to love it. Let's just take God out of it. Just strictly from an entertainment standpoint, when you're watching these actors, it doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel like this was written. I feel like I'm watching this movie, but I felt like I was there. And that Bible verse that describes it like this, it goes, the last is first and the first is last. A lot of men don't know what the last feels like. They don't know what it feels like for bills to be piling up over there. Or they don't understand what it is like to try to adopt somebody but have a hard time paying the water bill. But you know that they need a roof and you're going to eat less so that way they could eat a little bit. This level, when I watched it, the way me and Belle as one, because we're getting married, so I see God looks at us as one covenant. The way we go out and do our tithing or the way we help others, this hand does not know what this hand gives. It stays between us. She just got welcomed into what I do for others once I put a ring on her finger and made a promise to God. But not my parents, not her. No one knows what I do when it comes to giving. And in my own bubble, I'm thinking I'm doing enough. But when I watched people that don't have anything do more than me, I was like, I'm not doing enough. And now I just got put into perspective where God's smiling at me. He's like, you get it. You have so much, but you give enough for when you're comfortable. And I watch these people put themselves in uncomfortable situations for the Lord first and second for the children. And now I understand that the last are first, because the joy that I was watching out of the screen, I was like, a Ferrari can't do this. Starring in a movie can't do this. The fame and fortune can't do this. Right. Watching a child be broken and scared of the world and form into an adult that everybody around in the community is proud of. Again, no spoiler alert, but when the woman that's bringing children into good homes was sitting in the car watching the whole community at that one scene, bro, like we are not a unit anymore. And watching this small town of people that have nothing unite and not be separated, it's like...
It shows you what church is about.
Yes.
So that's
Right?
this
This
what,
is true religion.
This is what I want to talk about, right? So God says, I'll tear down these walls and rebuild them in 3 days. And he's talking about the temple, and the new temple is us. What did it feel like going into a small town, into a church that's run down small, but you could see the Holy Spirit moving like crazy in this? What's that like?
Yeah, you become really in touch with like real life. I mean, it's very, it's this strange paradox. It's so amazing. And at the same time, it lulls you into sleep. It lulls you into comfort. And it's really hard to want to convince yourself to like go do hard stuff.
That's so well put. Laziness is comfort's best friend.
Yeah.
And when you're comfortable, you don't want to work.
You just become averse to it. I mean, even if it's not something important, it's just like, eh.
Yeah.
So this community, I think because they're not real well off, and this is a working class community, they work crazy hard. And so they were used to that. They're used to what it takes to kind of like get through life as a community and as a family. They're not avoiding the hard stuff, partly because you just have to deal with it, you know? So we go in there and you see the centrality of the church itself and the community that's the core of, and then how it sort of grows out of that. And this community also, like many in the South, it just goes back generations, so that you feel that sense of knittedness and togetherness there that's really profound. And so when we got there, and I think after everybody got over the shock of us actually having come all that way with our kids, and just bringing us in and embracing us, it was like you're feeling what life should be like, what a lot of us in these big cities miss out on, you know. So putting aside the work and the hard, all the things that they did, just that is beautiful. Like we all want that. How many of us have gone to a church and be like, there's 1,000 people in this room and I feel like I know nobody. And he says like, have a good day, you know, thanks for coming. And you go away, it's like you still haven't connected.
It's not real. They're putting on a face. You know what it is, man? Like when I walk into church, I feel like the Pharisee, because I feel like I care so much what my cup looks like that the inside of my cup is garbage. And I think that I've been a hypocrite my whole life. And recently I'm starting to realize I'm like, I got to stop caring what these neighbors think of me, and I got to start worrying about what God thinks of me.
Well, the world wants this too, right? Because the world looks on, and we experienced this in the making of the movie. A ton of unbelievers were a part of it. And they, first of all, they couldn't believe the story. They're like, people willingly did this. They willingly, because we all know what this means. You're not talking about a dog or a car. Like you're taking care of a human.
And I like how you guys wrote that in.
Yeah.
and also, and I'm so sorry, I just don't want to forget this. You said, what was your favorite part of the movie? When you write about a basketball player, and you're a basketball player, you could see through the crap. You're like, this is not real. Like, have you ever watched Suits? I love Suits. It's about lawyers. I don't know anything about being a lawyer. Now I walk around wanting to subpoena everybody, right? But then I talk to a real lawyer and they're like, that's crap. All the stuff that they're saying doesn't even make sense. They're babbling. When I watch this Christian movie, and I am a man who fears God and is broken, and there's so many times where I look around being like, God, what are you doing, bro? I thought we had a plan together. And watching this woman go back on her word and want to bail out because it's too overwhelming, but God still delivers, reminds me again that we always think that it's a partnership when it's really we just fail God and God will always fulfill his promise. And through that, we build more faith. So watching this movie, man, you did a great job writing. I'm telling you, you and your wife did a phenomenal job writing, because I get cringy when I see uncomfortable, right? When somebody walks in, like, oh, and then they say something, you're like, that doesn't seem real.
It's
like, why would somebody?
It's portraying it in the fake way.
My 10-year-old, she said, they put furries in the movie. A furry in the movie. She knew what that was, and I didn't know she knew.
A what?
A furry.
The cat.
Well, today, people who think they're an animal.
Can we talk about this for a second?
Sure,
Do you know why I choked up? I watched this and I choked up because this is where God is kind of working my heart. When a house is divided, it cannot stand. And I'm trying to stand on the fence where I'm standing up for God. But what happens is I become angry at the other side. Mm-hmm. And what happens is I start acting not godlike. I start acting like I'm above them and I'm wiser than them. And you guys are dumb. You guys need to behave like me. But the truth is I'm just full of garbage myself. From another man's perspective, I'm just as crazy and I'm just as far away from God. Some people might use my swearing or the way I was with my woman. They'll see me and they'll say, oh, you're not godlike, right? So we always want to point our finger and be like, you're not godlike, but we don't know what they were like. Exactly. And where they came from and how God is working with them. And when we took a furry, which I didn't even know what this was.
Yeah, I didn't know either. My 10-year-old knew, and I was shocked. This actually allowed me to have a conversation. This movie allowed me to have a conversation with my 10-year-old about furries.
And this is crazy because my mom and I were talking about this, and I never talked about this before because I just didn't know how to talk about this. But I was seeing a rant on a college campus. And I got angry with the furry concept and all these concepts. And I turned to Bella and I'm like, bro, this makes me so angry. And I was getting so angry, man. Like, and in my heart, God goes, go get a massage and just relax. Like, because I read a Bible verse where this man was angry and he couldn't think properly. So God says, eat and rest. So I went to go rest. And there was this man who was living life on the opposite end of where I wanted to live. And I did not agree with his life. And he was sitting in the car, but I liked the guy too. This was funny because the one guy that behaved this way, I enjoyed his company. I didn't see it as a threat. And he looked at me, he goes, you know, God told me we were going to meet today. Wow. And I looked at him and I felt guilty because this morning I was angry with his actions and his community's actions. And so I looked at him and I said, I just want to hear your story. And when I heard his story, I realized that the devil got me angry at the man that I should be with more. And so when I saw you guys have this conversation, it reminded us if we are Christ-like, we are Christian, we should never write off a human being, regardless of how far off we think they are, because we didn't walk their footsteps, and who knows if we would make the same decisions. And so when I got to hear why he was behaving this way, and he was confessing things that happened to him, I felt like worse than the man that treated him that way because think about it. This man grew up in a home where his father and his uncle took advantage of him. And then when he comes out into the world and God expects his people to come and rescue him, his people are pointing his finger and judging him and yelling at him. And that was the day where I was like, I got to stop doing that. I got to behave Christ-like. And it's regardless of your views, regardless of where you're at, my job isn't to argue with you. My job is to love you and protect you and let you know, regardless, we're here for you. That doesn't mean we agree with your actions, but that doesn't mean we're going to write you off. And this concept that you guys wrote into this, one, beautifully written, and two, was it real?
Yeah. So she wouldn't have called herself a furry. Terry is the child in the movie. She's a young teenager who we sort of focus on as as the foster child who's going through the process. And so when she arrived at the Martins' house, her coping for her trauma was to act like a cat. And so, and I've talked to her, she doesn't even know why that was. So a little different issue, but it was a coping mechanism.
Dissociating,
for her.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Like, we look at somebody who's behaving a certain way, and we're like, why do you got to act like this, blah, 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 or blah, and we get so angry, but no one cares to ask the one question. Why? I just immediately was like, nah, F this, bro, you're crazy. But, like, imagine if, God forbid, imagine God had that energy with me. That's why the Bible verse that scares me the most is how you judge your neighbors is how I will judge you.
Yeah.
So when you see that man that you think is so far away from God, here's the craziest part that we don't understand is that God might be more with them than he is with us. The righteous Pharisees pointing our fingers. And that scares me, man. And you guys did a great job.
I mean, to me, what comes through my mind when you talk about this is, what does it look like to really live your belief and what you say? And that's a big part of this film. This story is that theme of identity and who are we really? We say we're one thing, but are we really? Do we really believe the things we say we believe? And are we living that out? And so what you're talking about there and every other thing that bothers us about life and society, you know, when we as followers of Jesus live in those places, I mean, that's the difference. Is if you can gain the courage and the sense of identity and calling and purpose to actually live into these places, then all of this changes. You know, Jesus, that's what he did. He'd go into the world, lived and related among people. He didn't just sit back in the temple and comment on the city and society. He went out among people. And this is what I, as a believer, have always been inspired by, is we must, if we don't actually live this out, we're either religious legalists or doomed to it. At some point, this will happen. We'll just sort of our faith dissolves and it becomes something else.
Yeah.
We have to be active. We have to be doing the things, and frankly, Jesus is where all the hard stuff's happening. You know, if we don't like what's happening around us, and if we also want to live the way He said go live, then this is what it means. Like
Amen.
You have to go in to the darkness.
Amen.
And for you, look, it's entertainment. For me, it's entertainment. It's not Mother Teresa living with a brothel behind a wall.
Yeah.
You know, like we all have a different
Calling.
way that looks, but it's gonna take pain, facing pain, struggle, discomfort, and this community lives that. And when I think of the creative way we captured it, what I hope, because it's a movie. I mean, this isn't. We want it to be what it's supposed to be, which is a movie that you're entertained by and you enjoy. So we're asking people to consider hard things. And what I love most about what I'm seeing is people feel deeply fine. Like, I don't know the last time I felt like real deep emotion, but we created it so that you're not just feeling one thing. Oh, I'm feeling sad the whole, no. Joy and pain and levity and
Life.
triumph and like all of the things of life, because there's so many perspectives in this story. Social worker, traumatized kid, you know, country pastor, all of these things. We're way far away from just some Christian movie. Like, I don't even think of it that way. This is a
No, it doesn't
slice
feel
of
like
life.
Yeah, exactly.
A community that draws you in, and then you go on this roller coaster ride, hopefully taking you to a point where you're going, am I like living life really? Do I have meaning?
And that's like actually like this great that you say this, because I wanted to really compliment you on this, and you as well, because all your other projects reflect this. It's the fact that you said this earlier, you're like, you know, I'm not a big fan of Christian content, because unfortunately I think that there's been a lot of Christian content that's been made where, you know, it's not as, we're not depicting stories as profoundly and as cinematically. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And I think that what's so incredible, and I would compare to you guys, there's this artist called John Bellion. He's an incredible singer-songwriter, writes all the most amazing music that you've ever heard, he wrote. And he's just worked on a gospel album. And what I think is so fascinating about him is that he's at the top of his league when it comes to his art making. And then he took that and now he's also using it to depict the Lord and to bring Jesus in his music. And you guys are like the John Bellion of movie making, because you're able to create important stories, bring Jesus to these stories, but then make them beautiful and make them be art. And I think that is the most mind-blowing,
Yeah, I love
amazing
it.
thing.
I love it.
I've been, I believe that it's confused me throughout my life of why isn't it that, or let me word this a different way. The people who believe in the creator of the universe should be the best creators.
Right.
We should be making the greatest art.
Father like son.
Yes. We're created in His image. We're His children.
Amen.
And we should be the greatest creators.
Amen.
And I think that there's a generation coming up now that will fulfill that. That there's the greatest artists should not be coming out of this nihilistic world and and there is a call. Like right now, we're seeing it happen out of LA, right here in LA, where there are many filmmakers who are saying we're done with the gatekeeper system, and I'm leaving, and I've been trained and I know how to do craftsmanship, but now my craftsmanship is going to turn to God or to good things.
Saul to Paul.
Well, one of the differences
We're
that
seeing
I've
it all
noticed-
over though.
What
Yeah.
I've noticed is that, so the creatives who follow Jesus are under assault. I mean, you are belittled, you are ostracized, marginalized, all of these things. So you come into this hostile environment many times in the arts, not just Hollywood.
Yeah.
That historically wasn't always the case. So you have times
look
like
at
the
the greatest
Renaissance
periods of
where
art.
it was the opposite. It was there was
The
reverence
pendulum is
for it.
swinging
Yeah.
back.
So you have to wade through that. And what I've seen is so many creatives are lost along the way. Amazing, gifted people who are working out of their gifting in the wrong way. They just get derailed.
Yeah.
The path deviates, and suddenly they're miles from where they're meant to be, and it breaks my heart. They just get swept away, and then others are struggling to stay on track and learn the crafts. But it's like slim pickings a lot of the time. It's like a practical thing sometimes that many have been swept away, and I think what we can do right now as creatives, as artists, is devote ourselves to those things, devote ourselves to the craft, learn what it is all about. One of the reasons I think so much of, let's just say, Christian media, I think suffers is because we don't respect those things in and of themselves for what they are. We get so caught up in the messaging and evangelism or whatever it might be, and we forget what we have in our hands. You have a movie, you have a painting, you have dance, you have these things that have limits. And you have to respect those limits and understand them so well that you can use them well. And so things like authenticity, the stuff that we're noticing here, relates to that. Like on a practical level, we just got to understand what in the world we're working with. We can't make it be something else. You can't make a movie be a sermon. It's just doomed. So let's elevate the craft while coming close to Jesus, so that you're protected, you're with him, your eyes are locked on him, and you can do his work and be in the world and not suddenly become of it. And so that's when I think people will start experiencing him. The transcendent is available now because someone has said, no, I'm pushing away all this darkness. I'm going to just stay on him, sacrifice, be willing to be a fool, look stupid. Like, you've gone through this. I mean, it's a painful thing to go, all the most important people around me all of a sudden hate me and they're mocking me. And I have to live through this, or I give into it and I change like they want me to, and you're ruined. So me as an individual, I'm like, man, let's go. We've got to stay focused on him, because the only way people will taste him, see him, touch him, experience him in what we do like they did of old was through that devotion and letting him lead. Like, just do this, Lord. Do this.
You guys are breaking the mold and forging to something new, bringing something that's like so important. I was just having this conversation too yesterday with my manager, and just about how, like character arcs, and how in women there's no women characters who don't have, a sexual arc at some point in the movie. You know what I mean? There just isn't. And it's like, we're not in a place where we can't tell a story without this. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy to think that nothing is being made without it. Everybody needs that shock factor or something like that.
We got to push all those norms away.
Exactly.
We have to push them away.
When I first came to LA, my mom is like such a hovering mother. Like, she's the mom that would bring me to the mall, check in with me every 5 minutes, or if I check in with you, we're going home. Like, it was just hovering, always protected, didn't let the world raise me, she raised me. But when I turned 21, I went from I felt like I was still a kid in my mom's house. Yeah. And she's like, go to LA. And it's like the most dangerous, weirdest.
Wow.
And I was like, I looked at her and I was like, Ma, how come, I was 19 years old and you were like, you have a bedtime at 10 o'clock. But at 21, you're like, all right, go to LA. And she goes, my son, I didn't send you alone. I sent you with God. Mm-hmm. Oh, wow. And years into this career, I grew this faith that my mom had. And there's a Bible verse that changed my life. And it says, God doesn't put a lamp and hide it underneath a bush. Mm-hmm. He puts it very high, so it stops being dark for everybody. and you represent him. He's the light. He's the way. He's the truth. We all have to come together. We all can't just sit here and wait for God to show up. How God shows up is his people. It's people that write good movies, produce good movies, talk about good movies. You guys could be the light as well by just watching the movie and sharing this, because all we want to do is consume bad things and talk about bad things. You want to make a difference, be the light, share this movie, Sound of Hope.
And show up on July 3rd.
July 4th.
Sorry, there's some screenings on July 3rd. And this week is the critical week.
Yeah.
This is when you take over the box office and make a splash in the top movies in the box office. It has a ripple effect across the world.
Amen.
I was listening to a speech by Martin Scorsese, and he said, the reason why I'm in this space is because this is where I can actually change culture. Mm-hmm. He said, streaming is a $700 billion a year market. Movie theaters are like 40 billion, 30 billion. But movie theaters drive the entire cultural conversation.
Yeah.
And you can see that last year with Sound of Freedom.
Of course.
That it was the most talked about movie of the decade.
You are who you hang out with. So when you're programmed to watch and listen to things that make you not a good person, you're consumed by that. So I very much agree with what you're saying.
And so
And
when
you see
when
the
you
evidence
show
of
up,
that,
yeah,
you know,
when you
for
show
that.
up, it changes culture. It
Yeah.
changes society. You may be thinking, oh, I just want to watch it when it goes to streaming. But you can vote with your feet and show up to the big screen. And not just that, there's something about theaters that's different. Andrew Peterson, who wrote the Wingfeather Saga, he's an artist and a musician in Nashville. He has a blog called The Rabbit Room. And in that blog, they made this blog post about called the Sacrament of the Cinema. And how when you go to sacrament or communion or the Eucharist, whatever it is that you call it in your faith tradition, you go in and you set down all of your distractions, and the entire congregation at once focuses on this symbol of Jesus Christ. And it can be completely life-changing.
Yeah.
That moment can be one of the most life-changing moments in worship. When you go to the cinema, you're letting go of social media and screens and voluntarily surrendering all of it. And you can't pause. Like, you think you can watch something at home and have the same experience. You can't. When you can't pause and everybody's experiencing the exact same thing at the exact same time, it is a sacramental-like experience where you get to see what that director is giving you, and you can have an absolutely life-changing experience. People are getting up. Like one of the critics said, you will cry, you will laugh, and you will stand up and clap for joy. Mm-hmm. One of the critics said that. And this isn't a religious critic. They're just saying that the movie made you feel so joyous you want to get up and clap for what's happening. And we saw that with Sound of Freedom as well, where entire audiences were giving standing ovations to a screen because they were having this communal experience together that changes lives. Yeah. And that is something that you can't get outside of the cinema. And so I think there's a bright future for cinema because of this, that people need a place to disconnect. And you can go to the mountains, you can go out in nature, but the quickest disconnect is just go to a theater, set everything aside, and then take in a story. And we just need more stories like Sound of Hope, the story of Possum, Trot, to change lives and have a sacramental experience that brings them joy and peace, and rather than this nihilistic world.
Beautifully said.
I love that. Guys, thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you guys felt in your heart Sound of Hope is something that you want to contribute, these are the days. God is making a huge wave in this world, and there's a lot of people that are seeing the light, and there's a lot of people that are thirsty for it. Even if you don't really appreciate the gospel, but you're just sick of the norm of what they're feeding you, today's the day. You may have not wrote the movie or direct the movie, but you could help push the world into a direction where we demand good films, real films, and not agenda films. Thank you guys so much for watching. Sound of Hope, July 3rd and 4th. Be in there and comment down below what you guys think. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thank you. That was so good.